I don't know, carry a pigeon? Or what are you supposed to do? Throw the messages in? I don't know.
Okay. Do you know how Islam was invited to the people then?
I'd like to hear this. I'd like to hear
Do you know?
Huh?
Do you know?
I don't know. Catapult the message in? How?
Is this how Islam went to those countries?
No, I'm being sarcastic.
No,
I think you will know the answer.
No, I want you to tell us, because you are the ones who make claims of invasion.
I'm saying
so now, how did the Muslims, the message carrier, invite?
Invasion.
So they just said, okay, we're going to come to Allahu Akbar, and that's it?
Well, I believe that's how it works.
Right.
After the death of the Prophet Muhammad, when Islam at this present moment in time was just the entire Arabian Peninsula, what we call Saudi Arabia, Yemen, blah, blah, blah. It was subsequent caliphs who spread it into what is now Syria, Iraq, North Africa and so forth. So they were essentially imperialists.
So they just went to a country, said, this looks like a nice country from outside. We don't know what's in there. There might be people in there.
There's a lot of things in there.
Slow down.
More booty, sex slaves.
Shahzad, slow down. Let's imagine.
What about Christians? How they invite the
people? Exactly. So let's understand that.
Conquest.
So let's understand this. So now the Muslim army is in the border of a country, which could be Egypt or Syria or Iran, and they're thinking, it doesn't look like it's just a barren land, must be people living there, so you need to invite the people to Islam. And how about going there is, okay, take our swords, Allahu Akbar, and then just go and destroy everything, and then say, you find everyone's destroyed and you no one to invite Islam to. Is that what happened?
I think that Prophet Muhammad,
is this how it happened?
You had a very good incentive for his soldiers. A lot of his soldiers for what we dying for. But then, then that myth of what's after death.
Do you even know what Prophet Muhammad's teaching was? Is or was?
What?
Name me some of the teachings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that you agree with.
That I
agree with.
Agree with?
Not disagree with. Agree with.
Agree with?
Yes.
Teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, agree with. At the top of my head, I can't really think.
I'll give you some time. I'll give you some time.
Unless he was the same as 2 make 4, but you can't listen.
Think about it. Teachings to do with morality, ethics, governance, economy.
I think take of interest is wrong.
Slow down.
So banking
I'm trying to help you because you only think about 2 + 2 is 4, brother. Because the only thing you can think of 2 + 2 is 4. I'm saying no. In terms of guiding one's life's affairs, interacting with oneself, how you look after your own self, how you interact with other people in a society. So teachings to do with this life's affairs, teachings to do with who you are, what you should be doing, how you should conduct yourself. Now, what teachings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam do you agree with?
That in economics, the taking of interest is not a good thing.
So you agree with that teaching?
Yeah.
So okay, fine. Very good. More.
Drug and alcohol aren't good.
Very good. Alcohol is bad for you. Okay.
I don't take God's existence for granted. I can't say that there is a self where causable causes, that is itself from cause, a causal cause of the universe, specifically manifesting itself via Judaism, Christianity or Islam. So in that sense I remain agnostic. So I'm not going to...
That's your position. So teachings, let's see what teachings, because his teaching are so many, it covers every aspect of our life, from even before we're born, to even after we die.
Agree with the
two things we agree. Things that you agree with, Shahzad. Agree with. Let's not talk about disagreement. Let's talk about agreements. There's something you agree with. So you mentioned 2 things about usury and interest, and you mentioned about alcohol and drugs. Fine. Okay. It's self-explanatory. We don't have to even justify these.
I don't think that's specific to Islam. I think there's a lot of ideologies.
No problem. So, go ahead. Name some more that you agree with.
I've already mentioned the banking system. Families are good things. Family stability. All those basic things that in my opinion, aren't really limited to Islam anyway. You'll find them in Christian societies, in Jewish societies. You'll find them in secular societies. but they're not specific to Islam.
Sure. Is there anything in Islam that Prophet Muhammad SAW came up with that you agree with? Anything that he came uniquely with that you agree with?
That isn't specific to anything.
Yes.
Not that I know of.
So, the reason why I ask this is this: how much do we know about this man, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? If we know not too much, not enough of this man, then of course we will have a wrong opinion about him. The opinion will be formulated by what others think in a negative way, and then say, okay, yeah, I don't like this man. So, if you can't think of
with the negative. Obviously, I'm not going to believe everything.
How have you learnt about this man, this Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What have you read about him? Which books have you read?
From Mecca, a remarkably astute military commander. He looked like he had a good knowledge of Judaism and Christianity, which he condensed into the Quran. There's no evidence that he was illiterate and was just, it was all coming to his mind.
There is no evidence.
There's no evidence, in my opinion, that he was illiterate and miraculous. It was all just coming to his mind. And
So what evidence would make you think it's an evidence? So when we have evidence where he's asking people, show me where my name is, so I can rub it off.
He was generally convinced that he was a descendant of Abraham, which I don't think.
Yeah. So which books of his biography have you read? Which book of his biography of Prophet Muhammad have you read based on historical sources?
I haven't read a whole library of this and that.
Which one biography books based on historical sources that you have read about the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
I haven't.
Right. So do you agree, if we haven't read his biography from the sources, then our information about him may be convoluted, and formed by very, hostile opinions about him that we hear about him
I'm
from.
not just exposed to hostile opinions against Islam.
No,
Because
do
I
you
live in an
agree?
area
Do you agree?
with a large Muslim population, and they're
Right.
hostile.
So the reason why I asked, when you said about how Islam, the Caliphs went, have you read about the biography of the Caliphs who did those so-called military, invasions and committed genocides?
Historical explanation, subsequent caliphs.
The ones from the very beginning, have you read any of their biographies? They're available in bookshops in English language.
I think you're going to have to, recommend me a whole library.
No.
Even though I'm not giving you a whole
I don't have to recommend your library. I'm simply saying you've obviously, Shazad, you're a nice human being, right? An intelligent person as well. If you have formulated your opinion about the history of the Muslims in the earlier times and how they so-called, expanded their empire, and about the Prophet ﷺ, if you haven't read the source material, then your information comes from where? It's questionable, right? Isn't it? Questionable. If you ask teachers that there's a God is a half man and half monkey, and I say, yeah, this is what I'm claiming, and I've never read the Bible, and I go to a Christian and I claim that, why do you worship half man, half monkey? And
evolutionism. You're not involved.
No. Half man and half monkey, right? Or half elephant and half man, like Ganesh. Things like this.
Can I give you a mic? Your mic, just the mic.
I won't be here much longer.
That's all right. We'll just record what's
If we haven't read from the sources which should be used as a primary material to derive our opinions from, then we will fall into this era of having wrong opinions, mistaken opinions, and totally fallacious and hostile opinions about a person, about a history, about a nation, about a culture. So what I can ask you simply is this. Before you formulate...
Like next week.
I'm not going to say you do all that by next week. Take your time. You see, to understand the teaching of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the first material you should read is called the Quran, which was given to him, and he applied the Quran to his life. And that's why he was described by his household that he was a walking Quran. So, if you haven't read the Quran, have you?
In bits.
In bits. Sure.
Obviously, I've
Right.
been in a background where there was a
Fine.
Quran present.
This is an honest answer from you. If you haven't read the Quran, start reading the Quran in the language that is available to you. And English, you're speaking English, French, it's available in French and English. And see for yourself, start reading with this in mind. Okay, I have a worldview. Who I am, what am I doing, what's going to happen to me afterwards. How we should live our life, how we should interact with other people. What is the reality? Is this an illusion or is it reality and reality? About the whole cosmos.
Like the solipsism here.
No. The whole thing, because the Quran, as a revelation from God, came to liberate people's mind from what? From the total destruction or suppression of their intellect, of not using it, to reviving the intellect and reinvigorating. So look, think about the reality of who you are, and then it inciting you and your inner self to say, motivate you and encourage you to come to the grasp of reality. And the Quran provides the arguments and evidence for this reality, about the book itself, about God, so that you can then say, I surrender and I accept, because that's it. Surrender meaning what? I submit to this Creator and His guidance, or you just simply can say, that's it. This book.
It could be that. It could be I submit, or it could be, I see contradiction.
Yeah,
I see problems here.
absolutely. This is
So
how.
obviously
This
there
is
could be,
how.
for example, uncomfortable truths that you might have issues with. There might be uncomfortable truths regarding.
Anyone can have issues with. For example, someone who's a vegetarian, like they were having discussion last week, so on, they might have a discussion about when the Quran says, you can make sacrifice during the month of Hajj and so on, or allowable, permissible to you are those kind of food sacrificed in the name of God. They might have an issue with it because of their ideological background, which is no killing or taking lives of any animals. But it doesn't mean that this is part of the natural order and natural law, that we should all be vegetarian, for example, right? Do you see the difference? One is your ideological stance where you think, there shouldn't be any capital punishment whatsoever. People commit crime, punish them, but don't kill them off.
Which would, I believe, that would contribute.
Do you see? For example, if you have an ideological stance where you say, it doesn't matter what crime people have committed, the maximum punishment should not be capital punishment by killing them with lethal injection or hanging them, or getting the heads off, whatever, right? Not taking the life away. You can have that personal stance based on your ideology, saying, I don't want anyone to be killed, right? So you can disagree from that angle, but the reality is different, where now, is it that society sometimes may need very harsh punishment to such an extent that it amounts to like this: if you take another life away, your life will be taken away. If you unjustly kill someone, your life will be taken away. That could be a very effective deterrent of not taking life away. To give you an example, I'm not justifying anything, by the way, I'm just giving an example of how we can assess the Quran and agree or disagree with it. For example, imagine a country. Turn around if it's sun coming to you. You okay now? Imagine a country passes a law. If you commit a crime of murder or homicide, okay, accidental or intentional, the penalty is 10 British pounds. Do you think this punishment will stop murder in that society?
It's not going to have much of a retributory effect.
I personally think it's not. Someone who is not a very good person, he says, I've got 20 pounds in my pocket. 20 British pounds. So he kills two people. Says, I can kill two. Not one.
To speak to you later.
Inshallah. I can kill two people with 20 pounds. That's it. And say I can get more money. The people that I murdered, I can get more than 20 pounds from them, so I can kill more.
It is turning a bit straw man-y.
No. Do you realize the deterrent effect is missing there? Why? The gravity of the crime and the consequence of the punishment, the gravity of the punishment is not the same.
It doesn't really have a deterrent effect.
Good, very good.
In many cases, incarceration or execution doesn't really have a deterrent effect in many societies such as the United States or China.
Would you go and kill someone unjustly, knowing that if you get caught in the eyes of the law, you will be punished with your life being taken away? Would you not think twice? Would you not think twice? Imagine you're a bad person, which you are not. I apologize for using this example. Imagine, and you say like, oh, if I'm going to kill that person, you know, because I don't like that person, my life's going to be taken away. Would you not think twice?
If it's premeditated, like how some evil psychopath...
We're not talking about psychopaths.
But there are crimes of passion that people don't think
there
about.
are people, psychopaths, who are totally like lost, right? They are different kettle of fish. They are different. They have to be understood in a different perspective.
But as a crime,
but as a criminal,
a heat of the moment, crime of passion. Well, very often this deterrent effect won't make much of a difference.
So are you saying?
For example, a lot of people end up in prison for killing a spouse or killing someone close to them because during an argument or something. And obviously incarceration wasn't going to have a deterrent effect.
Okay, so are you saying those people who kill their spouse out of the heat of the moment and they realize then they're also killed, life taken in return, it's not going to deter other people?
Hopefully it will.
Yeah, that's the idea. It might not deter one individual.
But there's not a lot of statistical evidence for that.
I think there are. I mean, if you were to study the history of crime and punishment and look at the punishment and the gravity of the crime, you will see the punishment which is severe enough, you know, the criminals even think twice because they don't want to get caught and their life to be in a detrimental way. So this is why I'm saying, when you study the Quran, sorry for this diversion, when you study the Quran, you can have this disagreement based on your own personal ideological standpoint, but the reality is different from what your ideological standpoint is. I talked about vegetarianism and I talked about one's compassionate ground of not having capital punishment. There may be lots of other things where people may disagree with the Quran. So when the Quran is to be read, it's to be read holistically. The Quran provides a what? A system of life in which the whole mechanism altogether holistically will not only benefit the society and the individual, but it will make them progress and it will make them go to such a level of achievement and success that what we see in the first 300 years when Islam was implemented. When that was the case, Muslims were, what were they doing? They became the peak of civilization. People from England, people from other countries had to go to Islamic countries to learn and be educated.
My theory on this one is that when you look at the first 300 years of Islamic society, much of the progress that was taking place was nothing more than cultural, philosophical, mathematical appropriation of things that were given to them already by the Greeks, the Persians, and so forth. For example, the Arab numerals actually came from the Hindus. So for the first 2 to 3 centuries, what Islamic society was actually doing was cannibalizing the achievements.
Assimilating. It's called assimilating of the knowledge that is there in different... Listen, if you think this is how we, conduct our achievements in knowledge, that's not how we achieve knowledge. We learn from what's been going on, even in science. You know what we do, for example, if I have a research question now, to do a PhD, for example. If I am doing a PhD with a research question, I don't just go there from scratch. I look at what's already been known and what needs to be learned and known. So, in any field of knowledge, you have to learn what's there available to you, and then you build on this knowledge and you contribute. You contribute.
It looks like after 300 years, the Islamic society started to stagnate.
Not just 300 years, much later. Not just 300 years. We have Ibn Sina, for example. His book called Al-Qanun fi al-Tibb, the Canon of Medicine. It was a textbook for 700 years in Europe, went through more than 17 editions. A textbook of medical science, a medical textbook, that long, right? It wasn't because that much contribution it had. This is just one name out of the blue. So Islam didn't just become stagnant there. What we need to understand is what Islam did, it didn't say, okay, leave the other societies and cultures and civilization and don't take any. No, see what people have already learned. So the number zero, was from the Indian civilization. But then they what? Contributed to this and developed. Calculus is purely an Islamic development. Calculus. Islamic development by the Muslims or the citizens of the Islamic country at that time. So Islam didn't just assimilate, it started contributing. That's why many of the names of the stars and so on, why does it sound like Arabic names? Because they were contributing, they were observing and they were naming them. This is how science progressed in Islamic lands. It is still happening today, but now because science is not a monopoly of a particular country, it's universal. So just because you don't know a particular country would say, okay, that's it. If you go to any spheres of science and technology, you will see Muslims working. It's no longer a one person, one country's, one tribe's thing, the knowledge and science, right? So, as we now realized, when they studied this book, it opened up their mind, the Quran, right? It opened up their mind to what? To explore the reality. It didn't shut them off. It didn't suppress their intellect. This is the difference you'll find with some other religions, which says, if you hear, I have to say this, if you read anything from this book, your tongue should be cut off. If you hear this verses recited, put hot oil in your ear so that you don't hear again. These were the laws of such a religious scripture in some earlier times. The book I'm talking about is Manu Shanghita, Manusmriti, okay? The laws of Manu, which comes from the Indian teaching, and it's talking about Veda. If you read the Vedas, yeah? Sam Veda, Atharva Veda, Yajurveda Veda, Rig Veda, 4 Vedas. If a lower caste individual, yeah, lower caste, were to hear or read, this was their punishment. So you can see their control. It was only for a certain group of people and elites to have control of that book. Islam came, the very first, I'm sure you know this, the very first revelation given to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Do you know what it was?
Yeah, it's not really
what was it?
It's not really much to compare Islam to other faiths, because as an atheist, an agnostic atheist, I'm not really a great fan of other faiths either.
Sure, but I'm just simply saying the approach Islam came with when it came to interacting with people's mind and intellect. The first revelation that was given to Prophet Muhammad, the very first, the foremost revelation, do you know what it was?
Angel Gabriel.
No, what was it? What was the actual message given through the angel Gabriel?
Prophet of God.
It was Iqra.
Huh?
Iqra. Read, recite, proclaim. Do you see the difference? Read. Someone who didn't know how to read, it was given to him an importance of reading, importance of learning, acquiring knowledge.
We'd have to look into this next week, because there's also...
No, I'm giving you the...
Also, for example,
I'm giving you the backdrop.
Muhammad as a young child actually being accosted by Christian priests in Syria. We're going back to Syria again. Mm-hmm. So this theory, that a lot of people have,
what did the Christian priest do? What did the Christian priest do when he was a young child? How long was the encounter for?
Protect him in his journey.
How long was the encounter for?
Huh?
How long was the encounter for?
A few days.
If you realize how old he was and how long the encounter was for, you cannot just from this minute encounter expect a 12-year-old to come up with a theological refutation of Trinity or the incarnation or the Christian belief.
At the age of 12. Yeah.
No, I'm saying
he's married to Khadija.
I'm saying this kind of expectation that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he went to his uncle to Syria, when this
Christian priest,
he met someone. This brief meeting does not give one the resources or the tools 40 years later to somehow come up with this theological, ideological refutation of Christendom, right? So that it doesn't actually.
A lot of what is written in the Quran is not all that different.
No. The Quran is very clear, saying Christ was not crucified, and most of the Christians believe Christ was crucified. So you can see the clear distinction. It says, okay, it appeared to them that he was crucified, but in reality he wasn't. So you can see the distinction was made in contrast to the current belief of that time by the Christians that he was crucified. And Prophet ﷺ came and said, no, you were wrong, you're mistaken. There was just a perception, mistaken perception at that time of the people. They thought he was crucified, but he wasn't. So this is how you should approach the Quran, that the Quran has a total different outlook of how you interact with it. The Quran talks to people like yourself who are agnostics or atheists. It talks to people in general. It talks to people, Muslims in particular, by saying, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, or you who have faith, or you who believe. And it talks to Ya ayyuhan nas, all people in general. So the Quran actually takes into account humanity in their diverse belief and opinions.
All very well. I mean, I'll be here again next week.
No problem. We meet again, God willing.
Yeah, we're digressing a bit now. I need an orange juice.
That's fine.
Yeah, it was interesting.
That's fine. So next week, hopefully, we'll have a much more fruitful discussion in terms of from this history that we discuss and so on. If you don't find me, I'm sure you'll find someone who's more knowledgeable on the history. I'm not a person who reads history too much, the basics, I know. But if you're interested, we can find someone who knows the history with the nitty-gritties, and you can converse with them. I know one of my brother, Adnan Rashid, he is a student of history. Okay? What is it? It's just offering you. That's fine, no problem, thank you. Yeah? So Shadat, it's been nice talking to you, and you take care, and until next time, yeah? Take care. See you later. We'll